Once upon a time, nestled within the bustling heart of a vibrant town, lived a humble merchant. His days were dedicated to the trade of salt, a livelihood that sustained his loving wife and their 2 sons. The elder of these sons possessed a quiet spirit, a gentle soul hesitant to voice his thoughts or engage with the flurry of townspeople. In stark contrast, his younger brother radiated confidence, his words flowing freely, his presence outgoing and assured. Sadly, the elder son's reserved nature often led others to misjudge him. His quiet demeanor was mistaken for foolishness, and some, with unkind intentions, saw him as an easy target, exploiting his innocence without a hint of remorse. Yet, through it all, the elder son remained silent, never uttering a complaint. The merchant, a man of brisk efficiency and clear expectations, found himself increasingly frustrated by his eldest son's timidity. Harsh words and sharp scoldings became commonplace, a misguided attempt to instill confidence that only served to further erode the boy's fragile self-esteem. As the elder son journeyed through his formative years, his lack of self-assurance cast a long shadow over his education. During examinations, a paralyzing fear would grip him, stifling his ability to recall answers he knew, hindering his capacity to learn and grow. Eventually, as he blossomed into a young man, his father, weary and perhaps hopeful, asked him to join the family business. Fearful of disappointing the man who had always provided for him, he reluctantly agreed. However, his inherent nervousness proved a constant companion, leading to frequent mistakes that only fueled his father's growing anger and exasperation. One fateful day, while the merchant was away on a trading expedition, a pair of cunning men with glinting eyes and persuasive words arrived at the shop. "Your father," one declared with false authority, "has sent us to collect all the salt sacks. They are urgently needed in the city." The young man, his mind clouded by doubt and his tongue tied by hesitation, failed to question their claim. Before he could fully grasp the situation, the deceptive duo had swiftly loaded all the precious goods and vanished into the crowded streets. When the merchant returned, his heart heavy with anticipation of a successful day, he was met with a devastating sight of an empty shop. His face contorted in fury, his voice booming with uncontrolled rage. "You fool!" he roared, his words like sharp stones. "You allowed them to steal everything. You have brought ruin upon us. Get out of my sight. Never return." The young man was utterly crushed. His father's incandescent anger, the imagined laughter of the townspeople echoing in his ears, and the overwhelming weight of his helplessness combined to make him feel utterly worthless. His heart ached with a profound sorrow, a deep sense of failure that seemed insurmountable. Heartbroken and adrift, he wandered aimlessly towards a tranquil riverbank, the gentle murmur of the water a stark contrast of the turmoil within him. Overwhelmed by shame and despair, a dark thought took root in his mind. "There is no point in living any more," he whispered to the flowing water. "I am destined to be a failure." Just as he teetered on the precipice of despair, a young disciple, his eyes filled with serene wisdom, happened to be passing by. Seeing the young man's distress, he swiftly intervened, gently but firmly pulling him back from the edge. The young man, startled and still consumed by his anguish, turned angrily to his rescuer. "Why did you save me?" he demanded, his voice thick with despair. "My life is useless. I cannot do anything right." The disciple's voice was calm and reassuring. "Life," he said gently, "is a precious gift given only once. As long as you draw breath, you possess the power to overcome failure and discover the sweet taste of success. But if you surrender now, you will forever remain unaware of the extraordinary potential that lies within you." The young man, his anger softening into a vulnerability, poured out his sorrows to the compassionate disciple. "I am plagued by shyness and weakness," he confessed, his voice barely a whisper. "Because of this, my own father despises me. I lack education, and the townsfolk mock me, calling me a fool. Does someone like me even deserve to exist?" A warm smile touched the disciple's lips. "My revered teacher," he said kindly, "possesses a wisdom to answer your profound question. Come with me." Initially, the young man hesitated, his ingrained shyness making him wary of new encounters. But the disciple's gentle persistence and the faint glimmer of hope he offered eventually persuaded him. He followed the young sage towards a secluded ashram, a sanctuary of peace and contemplation. There, Beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient tree sat a great saint, his eyes closed in deep meditation, an aura of profound serenity surrounding him. The disciple and the young man bowed respectfully before him. The moment the young man laid eyes upon the saint, a wave of emotion overwhelmed him, and he broke down into uncontrollable sobs. The saint, his voice gentle and compassionate, inquired, "Why do you weep so deeply, my child?" Through his tears, the young man choked out, "You are my last hope. If you cannot guide me, I see no other path but to end this miserable existence." The saint, his gaze filled with understanding, calmly asked him to share the burdens that weighed so heavily on his heart. And so, the young man, with hesitant words at first, then with a growing sense of release, narrated the entire tapestry of his life, his struggles, his fears, and his profound sense of inadequacy. After listening intently, his wise eyes never leaving the young man's face, the saint finally spoke. "I have a path for you, my son, a way to find the strength you seek. But before I reveal it, you must agree to follow my instructions diligently for the next 3 days. If you complete the tasks I set before you, I promise you, your life will begin to transform." Desperate for even the faintest glimmer of hope, the young man readily agreed, his heart fluttering with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. On the first day, the saint's instruction was simple yet daunting. "Go into the town," he commanded, "and speak to 10 strangers. Ask them about their lives, their joys, their sorrows, their dreams, and carefully record their responses." The young man's heart sank. The very thought of approaching strangers filled him with dread. His shyness felt like an insurmountable wall. Yet, remembering his promise and the hope the saint had offered, he reluctantly ventured into the bustling town. As he approached people, his voice trembled, his cheeks flushed. Some individuals brushed him off dismissively, their eyes cold and uninterested. Others were curt and even rude. But with each interaction, something within him began to stir. He persevered, driven by a newfound determination. By the time evening painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, he had spoken to 10 people. To his surprise, a few had been kind, sharing their stories with warmth and openness. He had even exchanged a few friendly words, a novel experience that filled him with a quiet sense of accomplishment. Proudly, he returned to the saint and recounted his day. The saint listened patiently, a gentle smile playing on his lips. On the second day, the saint presented a task that filled the young man with even greater apprehension. "Today," the saint instructed, "you must gather 10 young students and teach them about the vital importance of water." The young man recoiled in shock. "Teach," he stammered, "but I have no proper education. How can I possibly teach others?" He protested, his old insecurities flooding back. The saint's smile remained serene. "Those young minds," he said gently, "are unaware of your perceived lack of education. Share with them what you already know, the simple yet profound truths about water." Nervously, the young man stood before the small group of eager children. His hands trembled, his heart pounded in his chest. But he began to speak, his voice hesitant at first, then gaining a little strength. He explained 5 essential uses of water, his words simple but clear. Overwhelmed by his own daring, he quickly concluded his impromptu lesson and hurried back to the saint. "I was so scared," he confessed, his voice still shaky. "But I did it." The saint nodded encouragingly. "Try again," he suggested. This time, emboldened by his previous small victory, the young man spoke with more confidence, his voice clearer, his demeanor more assured. By the end of the lesson, a remarkable realization dawned upon him. The paralyzing fear had begun to recede. The saint praised him warmly. "See, my son," he said, his eyes twinkling, "you possess a bravery you never knew existed." On the third and final day, the saint presented the most challenging task of all. "Today," he said, his voice firm yet compassionate, "you must visit your father and ask for his forgiveness." The young man's face paled. "No," he exclaimed, his voice filled with terror. "He will never forgive me. I cannot face his anger again." The saint's gaze was unwavering. "If you refuse this task," he stated firmly, "I cannot offer you the final key to unlocking your potential." Gathering every ounce of courage he could muster, the young man slowly made his way back home. He found his father, his face etched with worry and the lingering pain of loss. Humbly, the young man knelt before him. "Father," he began, his voice filled with genuine remorse, "I am deeply sorry for my foolishness. Please forgive me. Give me another chance, and I promise, with all my being, to prove my worth to you." The merchant, seeing the profound change in his son's eyes, the sincerity in his voice, and the newfound resolve in his posture, felt his anger begin to melt away. A flicker of hope rekindled within him. He reached out and gently placed a hand on his son's shoulder. "I forgive you," he said, his voice softer than it had been in a long time. "You have another chance. Come, let us rebuild together." When the young man returned to the saint, his heart lighter than it had been in years, he eagerly asked for the secret to his newfound strength. "Tell me, wise one," he implored, "what is the magic that has begun to transform my life?" The saint smiled knowingly. "My dear son," he said gently, "you have already discovered the secret yourself. Your greatest adversary was not your shyness, but the crippling fear that held you captive. People perceive you as you present yourself to the world. Even when you feel weak and uncertain, if you act with confidence, others will rarely doubt you." The saint continued, his voice resonating with wisdom. "True strength does not lie in the absence of fear, but in the unwavering belief in your own capabilities. It blossoms when you dare to step beyond confines of your comfort zone." Tears of gratitude welled up in the young man's eyes. He bowed deeply before the saint. "I understand now," he said, his voice filled with newfound conviction. "I will no longer allow fear to dictate my life. I will strive to show the world the capable person I am." Years later, that same young man became a highly respected businessman in the town, renowned not only for his success but also for his wisdom and unwavering confidence. He often shared his story, a testament to the transformative power of self-belief. Confidence is not a birthright. It is a quality nurtured through action and perseverance. Even the most timid soul can cultivate inner strength by choosing to believe in their own potential. The limitations that often bind us are merely constructs of our own minds. Fear and self-doubt can act as formidable chains, but courage and persistent effort hold the key to unlocking a life of limitless possibilities. The young man who once believed himself destined for failure discovered that by confronting his fears, he could rewrite his own narrative. Confidence flourishes when we venture beyond the familiar shores of our comfort zones. The world reflects the image we project. Believe in yourself. Take those initial small steps forward, and you will unearth a reservoir of strength you never knew you possessed. Thanks for watching.